So, our meeting's order is 7:38. Public hearing. James Urbano, 18 Hazel Terrace. Application for construction of 7 dwelling units at 18 Hazel Terrace. Would you like to talk to us?
Sorry?
Would you like to talk to us?
Sure.
Cool.
Thank you.
Can we know the plans we got earlier for this?
We didn't get new plans. Site plans.
Okay, we got these like a week or two ago.
Yeah. Well, we
got these when we got the stuff for last week's meeting.
Right. Yeah, but I had these too, which were.
Older ones. No, those are they.
Yeah, but these have the architecturals in them. And
In the ones that were in your packet, there were revised sheets of architectural and site plans.
There were 3 sheets of revised architectural.
yeah, but it's still not. Yeah, there is another sheet on there. I don't know what it's.
The ones that say we received March 2nd, the other 2.
Okay, so this isn't.
One's the front elevation that shows the building height, the tower height, if it's permitted, side elevation,
The front elevation.
the cover page of the architecturals, pages 6 and 7 are new. Or revised, I should say. I was going to start with a couple of comments before but I'll follow your lead.
No, a couple of comments. Go for it.
Okay.
And then we get to make comments.
All
I'd
right.
much rather you go first.
Okay. I'm addressing 4 questions that the engineer and the architect, in their responses to Bob Criscolo, may have missed. One question is number 2 on his list, on his sheet, and he asks about the 22-foot travel lane or travel aisle in the parking area and suggested increasing it from 22 to 24.
Right.
So we had already increased it once from 20 to 22, and Ron Zocher allowed 20 feet for the parking spaces. His argument is the parking average car today is 18 feet long. So for the 2 parallel rows, that's 36 feet. That leaves 26 feet for the travel aisle, which Ron believes is more than adequate. Doesn't warrant adding 2 more feet of foundation, digging into the hill another 2 feet and all that.
Yeah. Well, as long as we're not in the parking lot, it's okay. But I'm telling you, that's not a comfortable distance.
That's what we have at 245 Amity, works pretty well.
You're not in an enclosed parking lot.
Yeah, but true.
And remember, when you back out your car, you're going at an angle. It's not like you're going straight out. So you're right. 18, 20 feet goes at a certain distance, but you have to take your car and then you have to turn it. So now you're at an angle. So I agree with him. I don't think it works either. But I mean, if you're going to require only Mini Coopers in there, you got a dream. But yeah, so I'm surprised. But
Well, if I have to go through the additional expense of making it 2 feet deeper, I can do that, but I'd rather not.
well, I hear you. But of course, the other part of me says, if people can't use the garage, they're going to be parking on the street. And
So-
we already have enough parking on the street.
Sure,
now,
sure.
So that's.
So you're thinking the 18 plus 18 plus 26 is not adequate?
I don't think I agree with Bob.
But he's asking for 24, and assuming 18 feet for a parking space, we have 26 feet.
Well, the parking's, well, I know that he's saying the average car is 18,
Yeah.
but there are cars that are bigger than 18, just like there are cars smaller than 18. It's the bigger ones, obviously, that are the concern, not the smaller ones.
Yeah.
So, again, I don't disagree with him, but
Okay.
Just so I'm clear in my minutes, each, because I'm confused, each parking space would now be 20 feet, and then the lane width is 26 feet?
No.
Okay,
With a parking space of 18 feet,
okay.
the turning aisle would
Well-
be 26 feet.
no. Well, that's not exactly what your drawing shows, though.
No, it shows 20 feet.
Your drawing shows 20 feet because that's how they usually would make a parking space, 20 feet. Because there are cars bigger than 18 and smaller than 18. So I hear what the engineer's saying, but unless the only people in the building are only going to be driving average cars, it's 20 feet.
We'd have to write that into the condo documents.
Whatever. I mean, again, maybe you give maybe you give a Mini Cooper with every condo.
Here's an idea.
There you go. But so it's 20 feet, and then there's 22 feet between the parking areas. That's per the drawing.
Okay.
So, and Bob I think said 24.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I'm just agreeing with Bob. But,
Thank you for clarifying.
okay.
The second question was number 3, fire marshal review. I met with him today. The fire marshal gave him a set of plans. The one comment so far was that he believes a fire hydrant may be required. So, and typically once a building set of plans is done, he does a full review so as to meet his requirements. So we're not there yet. Question number 19 regarding UI poll number 207.
Yeah.
I'm working with Kevin Cushman of UI, and the plan is to move that pole to the property corner.
Let's see. Where is it on here?
Right now, it's in front of the building.
Oh, yeah, right.
It'd be on site
UI 207. So you're going to try to get it moved where?
to the property corner, which is where it should have been in the first place.
Is that a new pole?
No, it's been there for years and
Oh.
years and years.
Okay.
And then lastly, a question about the
For what?
Bank Street abandonment, question number 20. Bob asked about grading in that area, and I formally requested and have the consent of all of the abutters a road abandonment there. My hope is to be able to clean that area up. It's a neglected, tampered with, overgrown mess, and presently is in unsightly condition, and I would like to clean it up. So I've asked Bob Blythe to work with Jerry Weiner to try to work out an agreement whereby I can do that.
Okay, well, this street actually has come before planning and zoning already. And we said to the Board of Selectmen they can't because it's landlocking a piece of property in the back there.
Which one?
I don't know, I don't have a big map here.
No,
But
we've done the research. All of the abutters, actually one is here, owns most of the land back there, have consented. But regardless, if it's not possible,
yeah,
then
well,
I won't
actually,
clean it up, and I'll have-
my only question on that is, do you have permission
I
to
do not.
what you're showing? So,
No,
and after that, but this property did come to us. So I don't have a big map here.
But he's just talking about cleaning up that lot. You're not talking.
No, he's talking about looking for.
I'd like to
abandoned-
landscape it. I would
he'd
like to make it look
abandon
right.
He'd like to regrade it. And
Bank
right
Street?
Yes.
right now it's
Yeah,
town.
it's to the right of the
town-owned.
building.
Right, and I remember when it came before us and we had said we couldn't because it,
Because of something.
Park,
Because of the-
Park Road behind or something?
I don't know which property it was.
There's
but-
Crum Elbow that's behind it.
Yeah.
And Bob Blythe asked Jerry Shaw today, who is the person who opposed the abandonment or would be landlocked? And Jerry Shaw said, it's not a person who would be landlocked. It's the resident downhill to the left at number 14, I believe it is.
What's this?
Ladner
Zexter.
Zexer, yeah, at 14 Hazel Terrace. He did not want Goodrich Terrace abandoned because he did not want the additional tax bill. He did not want to see his property taxes increase. So for that reason, I put aside the idea of abandoning Goodrich, but continued with the idea of Bank Street, since all of the abutters, and in particular, August Leonard, who bought the big office building from the Alperts, would also love to see that mess cleaned up.
I didn't know that building was sold.
Yeah, it's sold.
You
So-
can't drive on Bank Street, right?
No, it's
See,
not.
I didn't even know that there was a street there. I was just at the property this weekend, and I saw the map, and I'm like, where's the street?
Paper Street.
Yeah,
Paper Street.
it's on the map, but it hasn't been put in.
Oh, okay.
The
Just the map
assessors,
in there.
it's curious, the assessor's map
Okay.
shows the property without Goodrich Terrace as a unified property. And the Alperts understood that the road had already been abandoned, but there's no record to that effect.
They thought they were saying Goodrich was abandoned?
They thought Bank Street was already abandoned. They put a fence up, closed it off.
Yeah.
So, well, it's immaterial because I don't need it. I would like to clean it up, but if the town's not going to cooperate, then I'll leave it as is and clean it up to the property line. Simple as that.
Yeah.
So that I just wanted to address that question.
Well, so the main question we can ask you is, do you have permission? We've answered it, and you know you have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could we go to the narrative in response to the request for the regarding Section 310 of the zoning regulations?
Yeah.
The regulations to protect the distinctive character, landscape, and historic structures within the Woodbridge Village District. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but if you have questions, ask me.
Yeah.
I wanted to show on page 2 the photo. It's just a representative example of a 19th century New England structure where the roof, the common roof of the house, extends over the porch. So that'll be the condition at Hazel Terrace, front and rear. Do you guys have this?
Yeah.
I'm just looking at it with your elevation.
I'm sorry?
I'm just looking at it next to your elevation.
Okay. Yeah, that's right, the photos. But it shows, shows a charming detail, doesn't it? I guess it's subjective.
Okay.
On page...
You don't want to go down that road.
All right, okay.
I
On
would just
page...
keep going.
On
I
page...
like the picture.
Good. On page 3, there's a picture looking down Lucy Street
Yeah,
to the Selden Plaza.
right.
And you can see the office building, now owned by August Leonard, behind Selden Plaza to the right. And on the access of Lucy Street, you'll see the lot behind the plaza. So I just wanted to show you where the building would go. On page 5,
Yep.
statement of use, just a quick review. The building footprint is 64 feet by 96. If I need to add the extra 2 feet, it would end up being 66 feet by 96. It's 1.5 stories. And it has 14 available parking spaces. So the limitation on the number of units is the number of parking spaces. I have 2 plans here. One is for 7 2-bedroom units. One is for 4 2-bedroom units and 4 1-bedroom units. So if the rule is 1 parking space per bedroom, is that correct? Then the second plan would have 2 extra parking spaces. That is the plan with 4 2-bedroom units and 4 1-bedroom units.
So what do our regs say? Terry,
I believe the new regs say 1 parking space per bedroom.
Is that what our reg says?
The new, what you just passed.
Well, we didn't pass anything.
Oh, I thought you passed something. All right.
You mean the text amendment? that what you're talking about? Well, no, it's
The
before.
revision to what you had granted in December.
Well, it's
But
actually,
that doesn't apply.
that
to
doesn't
your
apply.
application.
Okay, then we just stick with the 7 two-bedroom units. I thought there was some opposition to two-bedroom units here, and I have the flexibility of changing. So,
well, you can do what you want.
do what I want?
As far as this goes. I mean,
Okay.
the reg is the reg, and
Okay,
what we approved is what we approved, so.
okay. So let's go to the little fold-out. The 310 asks for a streetscape montage. How's my French? Montage? That's what it looks like now.
Yeah, it's nice. Oh, so this is, so that green fence is what's in front of the paper road?
Exactly. You can see the mess behind it
Yeah.
going up.
And let's see.
The
Telephone pole's over here. I'm assuming the yellow thing off to the right there is a cable up to it.
Oh, right, yeah.
the owner of the office building would like to improve that area so as to be able to do a better set of stairs, or permanent type set of stairs,
I think it's in there.
as opposed to what's there now. But that would require abandonment.
I think so. Must be up here. That house that's in the picture here, is that?
Yes. That is number 14 Hazel Terrace.
That's
That's
Zexler.
that's
Zex-
Vladimir's
Zex-
house.
Zex, yeah. Zex, is there,
So his house is set back?
Yes, it is.
From the road? Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Got it.
The 18 Hazel would be same frontage as the office building, same setback. I think a few feet back further. I guess the last thing I wanted to point out, then you can ask any questions you like on the rest. The last page, J, item J, statement regarding attempts made to coordinate and complement surrounding historic architectural design elements. There are no historic structures in the immediate area. Why are you smiling?
because I'm agreeing with you.
Okay,
But I like your choice of books.
thank you. So they're good guidebooks for detailing the structure and trying to get the proportion right, and trying to get the pitch right on the roof and all. So that's what I'll go by. The two books being the Early Domestic Architecture of Connecticut and then the Historic Woodbridge Architectural Survey. So that's it for comments. Any questions on there's a lot of material here. I don't want to waste a lot of time going, unless you want me to.
No, I have questions.
Okay. You said you have questions?
I have questions.
All right.
Does anybody else want to start? Okay, so, I guess one of the things, it'd be nice if you could put some kind of fencing or a screening so that you don't see the parking area from the street.
I agree.
I think it would help.
Yeah.
I think it would help your building, and I think it would also help slow things down on the street if there's a building you're driving by as opposed to parking lot.
I agree.
So on the
Jeff, if you can we go to that page, to the elevation? Page 6. It's the smaller sheet.
On the back. Yeah, so that, I mean, so you have a railing there, but maybe you could do some kind of fencing that was,
More attractive.
yeah, or higher, you know.
I mean, it's consistent with what you have above where the open porch is. That's what
Right.
you're going for, right?
Well, I'm thinking down below, that would be architectural concrete, sort of a raised panel effect to that height, and I could do a sort of balustrade or railing on top of that for screening. I want that wall to be concrete for the first 36 inches for safety's sake. So a car can't go through it.
Yeah, that's good.
But above it, I can do screening.
So if you say
It's easily
this would
done.
be concrete, and then above it would be
More
something.
rail. And how about, I know you have a vegetation plan here, but I don't know how tall that stuff is that you're putting there.
So those are, Ron has a key, Bradford pears, junipers, and junipers.
Well, 3-gallon juniper isn't very big.
He has trees across the front. Those are all Bradford pears across the front.
Bradford pear is not the best tree.
What
The
do you
state
suggest?
loves Bradford pear. Doesn't last very long. So, for your sake, I would put something else there.
Like what?
Anything,
open,
but,
doesn't
anything
matter.
but a Bradford pear.
Anything but a Bradford pear?
Yeah, and then they're not. It's not a good tree.
Okay,
The state used to use them, and they end up taking them down. They die. And
sugar maples? I like sugar maples.
sugar maple works.
All right,
You look in the list of trees that
Yeah.
are proposed.
You can look at our proposed regulations, and we have a list of trees in there.
all
You
right,
can look at that for a guide.
sure,
It's just a draft we have going here, so you can just look at it.
okay.
If there's good vegetation there.
There's good vegetation, is actually right.
Yeah, so
Okay. So, my question on the ground floor parking, you show a stairwell in the back.
Yeah, that's a vestige of an older plan. That should not be on there.
Okay. So
What's planned, what I discussed with Ron Zocher, is a ramp from the center of the building that will align with the corridor that gets people to the backyard.
perpendicular to the corridor,
Correct. Well, there,
and that'll bring you out to the level of the.
yes, yeah.
All right. So, okay. Well, I wonder what happened to that stair. The other. Your. So the side elevation obviously doesn't show the stair, which is actually one of the things I was looking for. But, so what you're telling me it's not there. I thought we had, isn't there a section someplace?
I don't think there is a section.
So then where's the drawing that showed where this retaining wall is?
It's on the site plan.
So it's not on the architectural's.
No,
It
no,
doesn't
it's on the
show-
engineer's
It
plan.
doesn't show where it is in relation to the building.
Sure.
this freaking, right? It's the one that has the overlay in orangey red.
That's right.
So this one shows it. It's the third page of that set.
So actually, one of the things that Bob talked about was putting a fence on top of this retaining wall.
Yes.
And so I'm not really thinking this retaining wall is gonna go that far up above the grade, so.
Jeff, there's a difference
I'm
of
thinking you
opinion.
don't maybe necessarily need this fence up there, is what I'm saying.
Ron Zocher believes we don't need the retaining wall. His first site plan did not include a retaining wall there. Alan Shepard on his own, when I picked up the plans, I see a retaining wall, and that was his design. But I said, I don't believe we need it, Alan. He goes, okay, well, it's on the plans now, we'll go for a modification later.
No, but listen, think about it this way.
Yeah,
If you don't have to build the retaining wall, you can push the building back 2 feet, put
okay,
24 feet between the parking, save you money.
okay.
Food for thought.
Reasonable,
Food for thought.
reasonable.
Yeah. Okay. I was wondering about that whole thing, and all right. Okay, so that's moving it to. I think that's. I think I covered my questions. So, and there's a sidewalk in front, right?
Yes, there is. And on the left side and across the back.
And like this paved driveway and everything, that has nothing to do with you though, right? On the drawing?
The bituminous driveway?
On the left side of your building.
Oh, no, that's to the house. That's
That's
to Vladimir's house. That's an existing driveway on the adjacent lot.
So where it says proposed sidewalk with steps, you're actually talking it's going to be a ramp.
The ramp I was talking about is
Is
off the back of the building into the backyard. The sidewalk with steps is along the side of the building. That language is on the neighbor's property,
Yeah.
but he has a line drawn to the sidewalk. So it's a little confusing the way he drew it.
That's on the left side of the building,
I thought
right?
so on page 2 of your architecturals,
Okay?
where you're showing a stairwell in the back that you said is not there anymore.
Correct.
I thought the corridor along that wall was going to be a slope, and that was going to get you down to grades, and that's why you didn't need the stairs. I misunderstand that?
That may be the reason why we don't need the stairs, but the stairs are not in there now. It's just a sidewalk, continuous sidewalk. This plan does not show the ramp that I'm talking about to get from the back deck to grade, but that that will be part of the plan.
Okay, well, my main question has to do with your egress, but that's not my job.
Yeah,
So,
and the floor plans will get refined. I don't like the long corridors. I want them to work on that.
all right. Okay, well, I don't think I have any. I'm good.
Larry, you have any opinion on the bond estimate that was submitted?
You think it's too high?
Why do I doubt that?
It'll be the first time, by the way. I think it's reasonably reflective of the work that is proposed as part of this plan. We generally have this reviewed by Bob Criscola as well. I don't think he's had a chance to speak to that.
There looks to be some bad math
Oh,
for manholes.
It would seem to be a little bit.
in whose favor?
In the town's favor.
Oh, it's okay then.
Unless it's a mistake, it should have been a higher number. But 4 times $150 should be 600, not 9,800. But that's something you and Bob can clarify.
There's nothing like the enthusiasm of a good, healthy bond to get compliance.
And we do know that you all got, including the applicant, got copies of Mr. Criscolo's comments on this. He did get revised plans late last week. He hasn't given us revised comments back yet. Terry and I just checked before we came upstairs. And
Bob Criscola.
Bob Criscolo, correct.
We got Bob's comments Tuesday of last week.
All right.
So we had a few days to respond, which we did. Within which we did.
I don't know where I saw it, but somewhere in Bob's comments, I thought he said that the backyard looked as though it was cut off and not easily accessible, but the issue with the sidewalk that now doesn't have stairs addresses that, right?
The ramp most definitely addresses it. So there'll be, have you ever seen the church at Greenway Road, the addition to the church on Greenway Road?
No.
Okay,
I mean, I know the church, we used to live over there, but I
okay.
don't know the addition.
There's a ramp from the main entry in the rear to grade that goes over a low spot. So it's wheelchair accessible, and that's what I intend to do in the back here, to give a nice, good access to the back from grade. So,
One of your plans shows the whole backyard being just grass. Isn't that a little concerning about it for erosion and things like that?
for what?
Erosion?
Well, it depends
pretty
on the
steep
grass
back there.
mix, I guess. in
Well, it's
part.
pretty steep back there.
But the intention is not to go back as far as he shows. Now, seriously, that we're going to limit the amount of disturbance in there to the absolute minimum. So I'm not, we'll do what we need to do to keep it stable and ensure that it doesn't erode. It's less of a challenge than 15 Research Drive was.
Interesting. Okay.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Just in terms of the process. So I'm not sure if this applies to P&Z, but I was just curious about this. How long will it take to build the property? Like a time on a calendar, like how many months once you start it and so forth?
Well, that depends on how much energy I have.
Okay.
And how quickly the units sell.
That street is so difficult to maneuver on. So I'm just thinking about the trucks going up back and forth on the street and the construction vehicles and so forth, and the delivery of the materials. Can you get 18-wheeler trucks up? Do you mostly use just dump trucks? Because that street is very congested.
Yes.
I think all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was just curious about that.
So the very first step would be to do a construction entrance,
Yeah.
track pad,
Sure. Yeah.
and then prepare the platform. That is, create a level area for the vehicles to park and from which to work. So the idea is to keep everything off the road. There's no need to use the road whatsoever. All vehicles, equipment will be on site, and if there's a delivery, it's on.
And that's pretty standard, isn't it? I mean,
It
that's
is.
everything.
Oh, yeah.
But there are
Nothing
cars.
unusual.
Just everybody double parks on that road.
Well,
So even with a single vehicle, it's just hard to move it back and forth. But,
the worst time is when the dance class changes.
okay.
I've been there at 4 or 5 o'clock, and it's exactly as you described.
Okay.
And, we would start at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, end by 3. So I think a lot of our work will be...
Would be out of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Just thank you.
Sure.
I have no question.
So we have a letter from...
What if jackhammering isn't sufficient and you do have to blast? Are you confident that jackhammering?
I've never had to blast... Well, I had to blast at Carriage Hill Drive for Susan and Doug Israel's house. We've done 3 test holes. One was witnessed by Terry and 2 by the engineer. In the most at footing depth. No rock. So I'm not anticipating any issue whatsoever. And if there is something, then we'll use what I had to use at the church. We encountered some ledge there. That's a hydro ram. It's a machine that'll break it up and we'll get rid of it. But we tested and found nothing.
Okay, so Chris, this is the Antonucci letter. You're going to put that in the.
Yeah, we should just note for the record that you did receive comments.
Nice to receive the favorable, isn't it? Unsolicited.
For all sorts of reasons, this letter is interesting.
But it's not written on yellow legal pad.
Yeah. So I agree.
Yeah, that's good.
Is there anybody here to speak in favor of the application? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? All right. So, we're actually thinking that we need to keep this open until we get Bob Criscola's last comments. So sorry about that.
What, does that mean another hearing?
Well, we can do it.
Closed.
Pardon?
Just means the hearing's not closed.
It's not closed, so we'll just do it at the next meeting.
And then it would give you an opportunity, if he says something that you need to respond to respond.
Sure.
So
So he didn't get his comments back by today?
that's what I just said, right. Terry and I both checked our emails before we came up,
Okay.
and he was working on it, but we hadn't seen anything. Terry's just gonna double check again.
No.
You might be slipping.
We also have another meeting to go to at 6, so after 6 we weren't gonna see anything.
Okay, so I think it'll have to be at our next meeting. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Can't blame us. Anyway, okay, cool.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And so that would be April 2nd, just for the record.
Yeah. All right. So the next item, we're moving into our work session. So the next item, the Tesla charging station. There's no one here to give us a presentation on that.
Actually, we removed it from the agenda. I revised it on Friday. They were not able to come, and they were just going to do a generic presentation, not anything site-specific to a specific location. So,
They continued to negotiate, Tesla's continued to negotiate with the property owner, and they felt it wasn't appropriate to appear before they.
Where is 1646 Trail Turnpike in, with relation to the gas station, for example? North of it?
it's
Obviously
opposite
north
it.
of it?
It's
On the other end of Grimaldi's.
If you look at Grimaldi's, it's still left, right?
But it may or may not end up there. So at this point, until they have confirmation that they are able to do it in a specific location, they didn't want to proceed with discussing.
I mean, ideally, we want it to be in that spot because we would want, if we're ever letting any development in town, we would want your building on the outside and have things like this on the inside.
And this would be, if where they were planning it, this would be inside, as your new regulations might anticipate parking being. And it would be equal to the largest Tesla charging station in the state of Connecticut presently, if true.
As long as they don't advertise it on billboards, it's okay.
I don't think they have to. They've got their dashboard.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't have one of those cars.
I don't either.
Yeah.
It's the largest one in Hartford.
No, it's near Hartford. It's at the Buckland Hills
Yeah.
Shopping Mall.
Yeah.
And that's equal to 18 there. Westport has 4. Milford has 4.
There's only 4 in Westport?
Correct.
Going to do lots for the congestion of the air.
Yeah, right. But they'll all be really nice cars.
Yeah.
So is there anything from Scrog, Mr. Fiscal?
There's a meeting this Thursday.
Okay. So now we get to talk about zoning regulations. So I'll just do some comments. I have my own notes. I also have notes from Marion Dubuque, but I think I'm gonna just scan those and send them to you.
Okay.
I mean, they're handwritten, so good luck anybody reading them. But
Well, I try to decipher them and send them back to you and make sure that they...
yeah, I'll just put it in there.
Whatever.
So a couple things that was. I mean, I think that I'm open for input from anybody, honestly, but. And I do think that the better way to handle a meeting of very frustrated, annoyed people is to not try to answer their questions. Because I don't think we would have never won anything. There wasn't anything we could have said to anybody that was going to be, oh, okay, I didn't understand that. I will tell you, I'm incredibly frustrated that the staff published a document that was false, number one. And it was let out, and it was on social media immediately, and it wasn't a vetted document, and I'm not really sure what anybody was thinking when they put that out there. I really think it was it wasn't cool. There's no way that was
It
cool.
wasn't put out.
Well,
It got out.
It should, to me, it shouldn't have even been something that should have been done. And it got out somehow, and somebody got it, and it suddenly ended up on social media. I mean, that's what we have to deal with out there. So it was a lot of false information, and I think to be honest with you, I think it just added gas to the fire. There was also a comment from somebody saying that why didn't we have what was wrong with the commission that we didn't have the staff review these regulations with the planner. You guys met with Leslie 10 to 15 times, so I need that to be clear. So these are the things I kind of wanted to say the other night, but I couldn't say, obviously.
Did she make changes after you talked to her?
Yes.
No, the staff. Did they make changes?
Oh, yeah.
Afterwards?
None.
We can't find them.
Okay. I didn't mean to interrupt.
They're not in the 125-page draft that was posted to the website.
Okay, well, that would be interesting since I remember seeing the changes after they were made from you guys, and so.
They're not
For
present.
instance, one of the simple ones was one of the questions that you had about the 5 stories. And that was one of the changes where we discussed it and said, 5 stories can't happen. You've only got 45 feet. And, it was simple place markers like
Well,
that.
I'm just saying that for people to think that we didn't do any due diligence is just
Well,
not.
I think you're correct. Is that due diligence was attempted? You're absolutely right. And but I think that certainly didn't come from staff. That comes from the public.
No, I said that.
Okay.
I said that. Okay. So I have to tell you that I didn't give out anybody's phone number the week before we went to the hearing, but I will next time if you'd like. But I got an unbelievable amount of pressure from Town Hall. A lot of phone calls from Selectman's office, town attorney, and they were things that they didn't agree with. So, although I resisted because I didn't really want to change anything without running it through the commission. I kind of relented at the end, which really didn't get us anywhere. So by leaving the residential zones and Dev 1 exactly the way they are, they were telling me all the pressure was coming from people complaining in the residential zones, and we were changing it. So I said, okay, we don't really have to change that. And the Dev 1, so in the Dev 1 is where the 55 and over project is. And so what you're allowed to do in that zone is, I don't want to call it elderly housing, but I'll just call it 55 and over housing, or like the Willows or Coachman Square.
Assisted living.
Yeah, assisted living. Okay.
Rehab facilities.
Right. And then, but you're also allowed, because we change our regs at some point, you are allowed retail there, and you're allowed offices. And so that was where the discussion came up with, we don't really know if this project's going through, and we should be trying to, that's what our regulations are for, is to try to anticipate what could be going there. So one of the things actually that was changed is the 200,000 square foot for retail down to 100. And that basically came from, because at one time the town of Woodbridge actually lobbied Stop and Shop to move their grocery store into Woodbridge. So, and that's about 35,000 square feet for a super Stop and Shop. And then the Whole Foods shopping center is 110,000 square feet. So that's where the 100 came from. 200, I agree, is crazy. So that's one of the things that were changed. Again, I don't really understand why the first selectman decided to stand up and say what she said. I will apologize for her in that I think she forgot to thank everybody on the commission for being volunteers and working on this project. But what's more perplexing is that she was a liaison on this board for 2 years, and there were never any comments. No one was standing up saying, oh, I think that's a bad idea. She was also on the Board of Selectmen when they decided to say that they liked the Plattis report, which, by the way, the Plattis report is basically what we are proposing in a T4 zone, but just on a smaller scale. So she was behind it then. And to be honest with you, I think she was behind all this thing. Even in her campaign, she was like saying she wanted to build up a business tax base. So, and then 6 weeks ago, everything was about face, and I don't like anything. And basically, they were trying to get me to call off the meeting and walk away from the regulations. So, in all fairness, I didn't think that was a good idea for any of us. So, one of the reasons we change regulations is so that we can stay ahead of the curve and be prepared for what may come before us. And we've been caught a number of times while I've been on this commission with incomplete regulations. A gun shop comes into town. We haven't addressed a gun shop. Almost every town around here has addressed gun shops. We haven't. We have to take the gun shop, and then we had to do the regulation. The same thing for the tattoo parlor. Not that I'm complaining about either one of those businesses, but those are things that, oh, we don't really want a tattoo parlor. Well, okay, well, now you don't have a choice because no one's done anything in the regulations to answer to those things. I do agree, Sony made a comment that we're maybe focusing too much on housing down there. But the idea behind the space above the retail is that it can either be housing or it could be office space. And the idea behind the smart code is that you can have office space, and then if it's a down time market for office space, you can convert it into housing, and vice versa. That's the whole idea behind the smart code. So there were other comments. The person stood up and said that our definitions were dated and they were old-fashioned. He's wrong. Okay, he's coming at it from a realtor. just because most gas stations today don't have work bays, doesn't mean you don't put in your definition. So when someone does show up and they want to put in a work bay, you've talked about it and it's in your definition. So that's why you have that. I mean, he did convince me not to go to any of those fast food places that only serve microwave food. But having said that, Five Guys, Shake Shack is not microwave. So that's why fast food definition is in there. So it's things like that were like not really helping the situation. So we also, I mean, listen, one of the things, we're planning and zoning. One of the things we're supposed to be doing is say things like, no one's showing up here to say that the canopy at the police station in the center of town, which is going to look like a gas station, no one's here to tell us they don't like that. But when it's built, they're not going to like it. And by the way, they're going to blame everybody here. So brace yourselves. It'll all be our fault. One of the people complained that we weren't publicizing our meetings enough. I don't know really what more we're supposed to do. In fact, but then somebody even went so far as to quote us having a discussion saying, can we send notices to just the people down there? Or do we have to send it to the whole town? We have to send it to the whole town. And I don't know who's paying for that. So it's not our normal process of scheduling meetings. I think it'd just be good if somebody was watching everything. And we're also open to the public and we're on TV all the time. It really wasn't fair to say that we were accusing of sneaking something over anyone. We're not. There was an error on the map. The C residence area was incorrect. It actually goes across the street, so I'll take blame for that. Someone commented that we should be waiting to see what the Merritt Parkway exit ramp exchange is going to be. That is pretty much off the table. State doesn't have any money, and they've pretty much said they're walking away from it for a little while.
Any credence to the traffic concerns that were said many times during that meeting?
Well, traffic is a problem. There's no question about it, but they're not our streets. They're the state streets, and one of the ideas behind the things that we're proposing down there is retail, and retail is not actually happening during rush hour at the end of the two ends of the day. I agree with people living there. I get it, but I get it. I hear what people are saying. I don't. I go in later, so I don't actually hit that traffic. I know you hit the traffic. I know. I get it.
Jeff, I think people were nervous and scared. Some of the process that we're going through is highly technical. So someone like you will generally understand it a little bit better as an architect than someone who served the town very well for a long time on a committee. But for some people, just seeing all these changes, people are afraid, like, what is the practical side going to be? Leslie's presentation was very professional and good. But then you see these streets laid out, and people are like, well, is that going to look like that right away? Or what will it do to the area? Will we suddenly have an influx of population? Will there be some condo units where they don't have to come before the Planning and Zoning Commission? They can build two giant condo units with 250, 300 people in each one with a lot of new students coming in that would stress the system. So people were a little bit fearful. There's a little bit of a technical thing. And I think that's what people need to just talk through a little bit.
I think that's true. But, we had, I don't know how many people were there, but, and 16 people spoke, and that was great.
117.
There you go. 117.
Chairs were.
But there were only 16 people that actually spoke, except for never mind.
Right.
16 people spoke. You're right. I think that's true, but first of all, it takes a long time for these things to actually happen. And along with
You mean for developments to go in, right?
Yeah, it doesn't happen overnight.
We don't build that.
But what you're trying to do is you're trying to show developers or investors that yes, this is kind of what we want to happen in our town. And no one's just going to show up here and say we want to do this, and then we have to think about it. That's like being caught without definitions that for things we don't have. So I agree that it doesn't happen overnight. And remember, we did multiple surveys and got input from the whole town, not just people that live there. and people were all looking for, and I thought actually people down there were in favor of it too. I was in those PLCD meetings of people saying they wanted a place like a Madison or or a Westport or something like that where people can go and hang out and go shopping and things like that. Those things aren't going to just happen overnight, and they're still not going to happen even if those regs change. They're still not going to happen overnight. It takes a while for these things. Somebody was suggesting that we're going to give tax breaks. Well, I'm happy to tell you we don't get to make that decision, so I'm not really worried about that. But we won't be giving out any tax breaks. Up until today, I would have told you that we already have. Somebody said, "Why isn't this 55 and over?" And I was going to say that we already have a 55 and over, but we don't know really what's happening with the 55 and over project. I will tell you that what's going to happen here is, first of all, if you have everything 55 and over, you have what happened in Southbury where the schools pretty much ended. They used to have great schools in Southbury. Now they have almost no schools in Southbury because Heritage Village, they just go and voted all the budgets down, so they have no schools. It's unbelievable. So we obviously don't want to be in that situation. But we are putting ourselves in a position where people are complaining about their taxes going up. They don't want to accommodate young professionals possibly living here in 650 square feet, and they're not really that willing to accept even 55 and over. So we're like, so the only thing that stays here are the people that move into town, take their kids to school, and then they're going to leave because the taxes are going to be too high, and nobody wants to pay these taxes when you're empty nesters and over 55. So my suggestion is what we should do is, and I was going to try to get Leslie into this, is that we should. There's a lot of things in here that don't necessarily affect changing things to T4 and adding all this housing and everything, definitions, procedures, things like that. So I think we should look at that stuff and see if we can move that forward, because that's one of the major things that's lacking in our regulations right now. And then we can.
Just the use table would be very useful.
No pun intended. Yes.
Well, but we have a frustration from our business community presently because if it becomes a change of use, it can be a long, extended period of time for it to get that approved, and it's a downside. It's a real downside to our present regulations.
Yeah. I mean, we're not receptive to people coming in and investing here, and so that's what we need to spend some time on these regulations, and the use tables being a prime example, so that, because this stuff can still happen. Somebody can still come in and decide to put a big box on the 55 and over project. I will tell you I don't want to go into it too much as far as our email today about the property going up for sale, but I will tell you that's an example that panic in that email was a perfect example of why your regulations need to be proactive, because it's true. Any one of those projects could, by the way, have always come in, whether anytime. We always knew that was a possibility. But if our regulations had been proactive and we were receptive to developers doing projects in town, then when a project comes in, you can require a certain percentage of that project be for affordable housing. And then you basically spread it around, as opposed to now, if you read that email, everything's going to happen at the same place. So anything affordable housing is going to be right there only. And that's not really what you want to happen. And that's what everyone's nervous about. So, but meanwhile, no one's receptive to actually doing regulations so that things could be spread out a little bit. So I'll stop talking.
So what happens next? Like, what are we?
Well, I think we should focus. I mean, I don't know what everyone's saying, but I think we should look at what we can actually take out of the proposed regulations and move them along and get them into our regulations. And I think we should keep talking about the other parts to what I don't. Again, there were 117 people there, but that's not the whole town, and those aren't the people that filled out the survey. Remember, we did surveys for the POCD. We had POCD charrettes, public hearings. We had a survey before when Leslie started. People were all looking for what we kind of proposed, maybe not to the same scale. So I think that the scale was maybe too much. But
But the commonality of the people who were there is that they are people, I think for the most part, who actually live down there.
Right, I
And
get
so
it.
they feel impacted. And I think, I mean, I thought the comment about the person who lives near Willows and talks about, you know, hearing the garbage trucks come in and hearing people who go outside and smoke and talk, I get that. And so I think if there's ways that we can look at what's being proposed and do our best to ensure that the regs will protect the residents, spatially, acoustically, we can't do much about traffic, but if there's ways that we can protect them, I think that's what a lot of those people were talking about.
Yeah, and sound and trucks. I mean, there are towns all over the place that have shopping centers up against residential areas, and there are signs at those shopping that says you can only, if you have a truck, you can only come back here between X hour and X hour, period. And that's how you kind of control that stuff. So, but that's something that has to be in our regs that we just can't.
Right.
Tell
But I
them.
think if we are able to ensure there's some protective measures like that in the regs to show people that the commission is not ignoring the living conditions of people down there, I think that will go far. And then I think the other work we're trying to do down there will make it a more attractive area in its entirety.
I mean, you know, I was actually driving down Metler Street, and of course that's where they put in those 3 two-family houses, and nobody down there likes those houses, I don't think, but I will tell you, they actually work. They actually are more in scale with the initial houses that were built in that neighborhood than the newer stuff. The building across the street is like looking at one long warehouse. I mean, it's not attractive. It's not neighborhoody at all. In fact, if anything, it killed that part of the neighborhood. So that's the stuff that's in here that I think that isn't coming across. I mean, I think there's a panic, but unfortunately, it was like a panic, like we were trying to get away with something. The whole point of the public hearing is to get input, so we certainly got it. So I don't know what is your. The only other thing is I will tell you that one member of P&Z left and resigned the next day after he heard the first selectman's comments. So it's you have to be nice to people. And it wasn't Alan Lipson, so I don't know where he is. So I don't know what you're.
Should we meet with Leslie again and see what regulations we can
do easily?
Right, and before we schedule another public hearing.
Yeah, I agree.
And I would go incrementally, too. And then try to explain to people what the things mean, you know. And I have to learn, too. I've only been on the commission for like a year, so I felt like the first year I wasn't really contributing very much. I felt like I wanted to listen more, you know, it was a wake-up call for me going to that meeting. I was really surprised. I've heard from neighbors. I live up by Peck Hill Road. I've heard neighbors that live up in that area about some of the changes. And, you know, people don't know what they mean. Like, what do these changes mean? What's going to happen in Woodbridge? So I think it's just something where I've got to learn about it myself, too. But I think what you're doing tonight is very helpful. When I hear you speaking, it makes me more comfortable about what's happening.
It's not catastrophic. I mean,
That's-
I agree
there you
that,
go.
I mean, I will tell you, I think that the changes at the last minute of we're not touching these residential areas and we're leaving, and we're not touching Dev 1, obviously going into the meeting, everybody thought all that was being changed. So, but I don't think we should.
I don't think any of those changes were efficiently or effectively communicated. Nobody understood that there had been a single change.
You mean the change?
Those last minute changes in terms of
I agree.
preserving.
So I didn't really want to do it.
Yeah, so
I thought I was compromising
Yeah.
with here.
I think any repeated or attempts to revisit this material with clearer explanations has to go out more than 2 weeks before the public information hearing. It's the sort of thing that has to go out 8, 12 weeks before, so that comments come back and changes can be made, because it didn't go well. Right from the first second, it didn't go well. It was failed. And we have to learn from that.
And there was also, no change to the residential zones. You always change our area, but you never touch those mentality there.
I know. Well, no change to the residential down there. Is
Yeah,
what I meant.
right.
A and B was never going to be changed because was not in the scope of what we were working.
Yeah, but I think it has to be explained.
Well, I tried, but it's not that easy. You noticed.
There's also some in-town sensitivity to the geographical naming of the flats area, which I'm picking up on as someone who's not from the area. All right, so we just put it out there a little bit. But I love Woodbridge. I think it's a great place to make a home. But there's some real sensitivity, a little bit of us versus them. And again, as someone coming from the outside, I think the word flats is cool. Like, I think we could make that a cool place. I live in the flats or something. Like, that's a neat thing. But there's a lot of people that right away were very sensitive about that and the meaning, and were very concerned that it was the flats versus the rest of Woodbridge. And there's a little bit of conflict there.
Well, by the way, that's just typical. I mean, you can go all around the country. You'll see. You can go into any city. There's different areas. New Haven,
Exactly.
Westville, and things like that. So.
But it's just something that's
I
an
know.
undercurrent that you see
Mhm.
a little bit. So.
All those years ago, I think it was under Amy Morella's administration, the trees were planted, right, on Amity Road.
Nan Birdwhistle.
Nan Birdwhistle, you're right. And that was, I think that's been a positive change. It's very attractive.
I agree.
I think that if we look at things like that or refer back to that, and I don't think people truly appreciated the value of that list of plantings that work well in a area like that and that will be successful. But if the analogy had been drawn or the comparison made to look at how the trees that are on Amity Road work and how well, I don't know. I think there's little things we could do. Just as it's little things that derailed this, I think there's little things that could be done to help.
Well, there are a lot
the
of things
message
in
be
here
better
that are
received.
keeping the rural. I mean, there's the whole thing about protection of stone walls. And these are all the things that we try to do that everyone talks about they like. But
Yeah, but there aren't any stone walls.
I agree it was lost.
Yeah. Is it
There was
appropriate?
only one thing that anybody wanted to talk about. And we never got off the mark. So. I agree. Okay, so I'm going to pass Leslie on these comments and then try to have her come in at the April meeting.
Is it appropriate to ask any of the selectmen to attend?
Does Leslie work for the town or the committee, or who
For the
pays
commission,
her?
she works for the
So
commission.
she works for the commission. So the commission went out and contacted her agency, right? And does she have a long history, job either with you or the town or the commission, or
No.
okay,
I mean, she's been a planner for a lot of years.
understood. Okay.
It would just be good to avoid those sorts of options.
It's okay with me. I mean, if they'll come.
I think if somebody's willing to get up and speak publicly at a session like that and say things that were not said to us along the way, despite the many years we've been working on this, the least they can do is come to a meeting when Leslie is here.
I was floored. I'm like,
Mhm.
I think that there was an opportunity to calm everybody down.
And that didn't.
It didn't happen. It became a campaign speech. I don't understand it.
So I think we should, if we're going to have Leslie come for a discussion, I think we should invite members of the Board of Selectmen.
All right. Okay.
I mean, otherwise, how are we going to get
I agree.
full and complete feedback and not feel, I don't know the right word to say. And not feel as though our work has been disregarded, that, we're out there all on our own when, as you stated early on, this work has been going on for a while. There's been, from the Plattis report to the POCD to Leslie's work now.
Gary, I agree.
And I thank you for not giving out our phone numbers.
I never had people talk to me like that, actually. But anyway,
You shouldn't have to.
that's what I said. So, that's pretty much it. We talked about correspondence. We have I didn't go back and look at the procedures. I don't really have time for that this week. And we have approval of minutes.
I didn't get any minutes. Did we get minutes?
They were in our packet.
Yeah.
Well, but I'm gonna save you on that. Don't worry. Where are
Try to make them as
they? Yeah.
Isn't that the meeting with them? I don't think I- Everything fell off on the floor of my car, so maybe.
Do you want to wait until you can read them? I'm not. Well, to be honest with you,
I wasn't there for the 5th, so I
Oh.
abstained.
so that's the only one I really want to do tonight.
Oh, go for it.
So it doesn't matter.
Let me find them. Hang on a sec.
I'm gonna give her this. Oh no. What you guys?
Oh, I was trying to find my set. Do you have corrections? And then if you give me your set, I'll just put them in.
Oh, I don't have any corrections for February 5th.
I swear I didn't get it. Maybe Chris didn't send them to me.
That means somebody here got 2 copies of each.
Actually, I started to do 2, and I had to go back through all the packets and undo some.
Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Sorry, who's second?
I did.
I abstained.
On the 27th ones, Chris, I kind of want you to, that meeting was recorded, right?
Yeah.
So I really want us to put people's comments on here.
Okay, I wasn't sure which way to roll.
Well, I think
I thought so too. I was
think we should
surprised they weren't.
let everybody know,
Like what people were saying.
and we can refer back to it and say this is why we did
Yeah.
this. And I mean, I don't think we have to do these tonight. So
No, and I just listed it that way
I know.
because I try to be very cautious when I put things in the minutes for you, because I don't want to interpret something and then put my spin on it. I want it to
Right.
be exactly, and
Yeah.
then it becomes a transcript rather than just minutes, because minutes are basically just what you did.
But given the nature of the meeting, I think
No,
it's
I know,
fine to
and-
have the comments.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there were 5 or 6 key issues that everyone brought up that we talked, with
No,
the
but
traffic.
the people, a number of people said different things. I would pretty much verbatim put it down there so people.
Okay, so I'll go back through, I'll listen to that.
It's a little bit of work,
And then I can
but-
send it back out to you guys, and you can look at it before we go from there.
I also think, nobody responded to your comment earlier, Jeff, but I think the way you established the meeting was absolutely appropriate. That we're not going to respond to questions, this is just a public session, we're going to get your feedback, and there you go.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons the concern was I don't think we weren't going to be able to answer every question, and I think we had to think about some of these things. I think it was just a matter of yes and no.
Sure,
So-
and some of the things were contentious and had a history, and people were showing that they were already edgy and angry
Right.
and cantankerous, and it wouldn't have been, I think, as valuable a session. We heard a lot of complaints and concerns, and I think that's the way it should have been.
Again, I think all the comments you just made, I think we should make when Leslie's sitting here too. Okay, cool. I think that's it unless you don't want to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
I second.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Actually, I think you're not supposed to oppose it.
What's that?